My alternative history scenario is, what would have happened if Japan had surrendered before the Yalta Conference? The Yalta Conference was the second wartime meeting between the Big Three: President Franklin D. Roosevelt, Prime Minister Winston Churchill, and Premier Joseph Stalin. After Germany's defeat at the Battle of the Bulge in January 1945, Hitler's defeat was all but certain, and the war was drawing to a close. The purpose of the Yalta Conference was to discuss what would happen to Europe after the war. Stalin wanted major reparations from Germany, its demilitarization, and that its land be divided amongst the Allies to keep it weak. The US agreed. The United States, in turn, requested the Soviet Union's aid in defeating Japan, because it could still be pivotal in securing Japan's defeat. The Soviet Union agreed to this point, on the condition that they be granted a sphere of influence in Manchuria after Japan surrendered. Giving Russia more political influence conflicted with Roosevelt's anti-communist beliefs, but Roosevelt saw it fit to deal with these problems after the war. As the world would soon see during the Cold War, communism and democracy are too disparate to coexist peacefully. His many concessions to Russia led to a similar situation to that of the rise of Nazism. Inaction and denial led to the empowerment of an enemy. President Roosevelt is still criticized today for believing that the US and Russia could simply set aside their political differences until the war ended without consequence. The decision to cede so many conditions to Stalin during the conference was in large part due to Japan still having a fighting chance in the war. However, if they had already surrendered before the Yalta Conference, the United States could have negotiated more successfully with Stalin and prevented many future conflicts with Russia. Shortly after the Yalta Conference, the United States successfully tested the world's first atomic bomb in Los Alamos, New Mexico. The following month, Little Boy and Fat Man, the only nuclear weapons ever used in warfare, were both detonated in Japan. They swiftly ended the war and elicited Japan's surrender, but took the lives of over 200,000 people in the process. In conclusion, if Japan had surrendered before the Yalta Conference, they could have avoided this massive death toll, and President Roosevelt could have affirmed more control over the negotiations at Yalta, which could have prevented many future conflicts with Russia, including even the Cold War. Japan's decision to never surrender until they reached the brink of annihilation may have been honorable, but it caused many unnecessary casualties and complications.